beginning, God created beast and man so that both might live in friendship. Evil men betrayed God's trust and waged bloody wars, not only against their own kind, but against the apes. Our Savior led a remnant of those who survived in search of greener pastures, where ape and human might forever live in friendship.
Welcome to Lawgiver, a Planet of the Apes podcast. My name's Tom Elliot, and tonight I'm welcoming my first guest to the show. Now, the chances are you may have actually seen his work before, but not necessarily known about it, because he has directed numerous music videos and television commercials over in the US. But as well as that, he is a huge Planet of the Apes fan. And if you're in the Los Angeles area in about a week's time, he's putting on a screening of all 5 of the original Planet of the Apes movies. But this is a screening with a difference. Now, you probably already know what I'm talking about from the title of this episode, but I will let our guest fully explain what makes this screening so different. So welcome to Lawgiver, Miles Flanagan. It's my great pleasure to welcome my first guest to Lawgiver, a Planet of the Apes podcast, Miles Flanagan. Miles, welcome.
Oh, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure being on this. Being a big Apes fan since the first series in 1975, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember when it showed in the UK. But anyhow, yeah, it's a real pleasure.
Well, before we get into that, because I definitely want to speak to you about Apes fandom in England, because I think there's a real special kind of aspect to that. But just for the audience, can you kind of introduce yourself, give us a bit of background on you?
Okay. Originally, as you can tell from my accent, whatever that was, originally from the UK, from York. Went down to London to college and studied animation, and then started working in the US, doing commercials, and then I decided to move to the US and had a career, music videos, the Pogues, McCartney, Dave Stewart, the Eurythmics, Microsoft commercials, whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I live and work in Los Angeles, but I've always been a massive Planet of the Apes fan, always been a massive film fan. I set up 3 film festivals: Hollywood Horror Fest, Los Angeles Animation Festival, and Boobs and Blood. And now I've set up a Super 8 cinema called the Soho Cinema Club, named Soho because I used to go to St. Martin's School of Art around the corner, Soho, and I love that area, and I love that sort of 60s, 70s. When I was there, it was the mid 80s, but it still had that 70s vibe of strip clubs. The media was still there, all the editorial places, post houses, Italian coffee bars, post-production screening rooms. All the major studios still had offices there. You could walk down, I think it was Wardour Street, you'd pass Hammer House, which wasn't Hammer anymore, but you'd go down Wardour Street and it was, it was 20th Century Fox. There was all the majors there. And it was a really cool, crazy place because it was high and low in terms of CD and high-end media stuff. Anyhow, that's why Soho Cinema Club, and we're based in Los Angeles, and we do screenings every 2 weeks. And I'm here because not only am I a fan, but we're going to screen some Apes movies.
Okay, well, we'll get to that, but like I said, I'm always fascinated to speak to other British Planet of the Apes fans. Everyone likes something of Planet of the Apes, but some of us are a bit more into it than others, shall we say. And I think at the time that you and I were probably growing up, for some reason that I cannot fathom, apes were huge in England, weren't they?
Oh, apes were huger than, is that a word, huger? Apes, it is now. Apes were huger than they were anywhere else on the planet. They really were, because we were the only place during the first run of the Apes series. The Apes series was a failure in most countries, especially the US, but in the UK it was a massive success. And we're talking I never remember the year because we were always a little bit behind, weren't we?
That's
Like they had
right.
films and it took a few months or even a year before they'd get to the UK. So probably 75, 70, I think 75. No, they had we had the fan club, which I was a member of,
Uh-huh.
and they had a touring Apes show live, which somehow I it never came to York or Yorkshire. It
Hmm.
was always the London area or the Midlands. And that was nowhere else. And the Apes fan club was nowhere else on the planet. And we had the comic, the Marvel comic, which
That's
was
right.
more successful. It ran longer in the UK. I've got some old copies, and I think it was running well into 77, maybe 78, maybe even later. It got
Hmm.
merged. It was Planet of the Apes, and it got merged into Dracula Lives.
Yeah.
But I was, if I could have turned into an ape when I was a kid, oh God, I wanted to be Galen.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know why it struck so much in
Yeah,
England. I really don't know what the formula is there, but I I was born in 76, so the TV show, I would have been too probably small to see it first run, but they must have repeated it because that was my introduction to Planet of the Apes before I'd even seen any of the movies. So
yeah.
that fandom for apes must have been going for quite a few years because I remember it as being quite intense even when I was old enough to recognize watching these things, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, it was you got to remember in those days it was it's not like now.
Mm,
Sci-fi fantasy, especially new stuff, was really few. It was all few and far between. And when something was on at the cinema or there was a movie on TV, me and all my mates, it'd be like, Jack the Giant Killer's on, or
yeah.
Seventh Voyage of Sinbad is on TV Saturday morning. And that was the big thing. So I think Apes really struck a chord because it was so different and it didn't cheat the viewer. You
Hmm.
know, I used to hate sci-fi films that were the invisible enemy. You're like, oh no, really? You
Yeah.
can't even create any monsters. But with the apes, they had an entire culture. It wasn't just, the appliances, not masks, they were
Hmm.
appliances. It was the outfits. There was an entire culture that they created, and I think there was something about that in terms of getting lost in a fantasy world. It was like when people get lost in the mythologies of Marvel universes. I
Yeah.
think that the Apes was the first to do that, to
Mm,
create a universe, and I think that's what made it different. As opposed to, there were films that came, Logan's Run and those, but they were just one-offs.
hmm.
And when it finished, it finished. But with the Apes, the stories that you had, and you had them in the comics, it really was a universe. And I think that's probably it. I think and that's why I think the longevity of the Apes series
Yeah.
is because of that, and because it can, you can take it in so many different directions. I remember the Marvel comic. They used to have beautiful illustrations. I think it was Mike Plug, and one of the stories was, it was crazy. It was like it was the apes, but apes as Vikings, and they were like dragons and in the sea, and were the Viking pirates or something like that. I have a vague memory. I always wish the films had gone off in that direction
Mm,
and not just remake the story. I would just wish they'd just become like Planet of the Apes meets Pirates of the Caribbean, which is one of the stories that they had in the comics,
yeah.
because it's an entire planet, isn't it? So you can do anything you want. Anyway, the latest Planet of the Apes film sort of does that.
Hmm.
Finally, I think and I hope it becomes a bit more crazy. You can have anything.
And I guess because maybe they haven't painted themselves into a bit of a corner with the with the world exploding yet, I
Yes,
suppose.
yes.
Maybe they'll keep it going and explore these new things because I'm up for it as well. I think what I like about that original series though is like you say, different companies have done the comics over the years and each of them have took them in a different direction. So you can kind of pick and choose your own canon, can't you? And what
Yeah,
you want
yeah.
to take to your heart and well, maybe I'm not too keen on this part, but I really like this part. So are there any avenues of apes that really you kind of like in particular?
Well, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed all the new ones, and I like the
Hmm.
most recent. I thought it was a great film.
Yeah.
I still love the practical makeup, and I miss that
Hmm.
because there's something that it's like practical effects. I'm old school on this, even though I mean, hell, my career I do digital stuff all the
Yeah.
time. But in terms of there's something, I don't know, that I just love the fact that it's actually there, it's organic, and it's a real thing, and you know the actors behind it, but you get lost in their work becoming an ape. I just like all the practical stuff.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that someone's made the costumes and they've made the sets for real and all that. So um, I do have a soft spot I mean, but at the same time, it's what you grew up with, isn't it? There's
That's
that.
right.
There's nostalgia. Um, Having said that, did I like Tim Burton's version? Nope. Absolutely not. I thought it was terrible. I thought it was a real shame. But no, I love all the practice. I mean, even the makeup sort of changes in the original series, like Planet of the Apes, the first one, the makeup, the appliances are really good. They're very soft looking and natural. Beneath, they're similar, though there's too many close-ups on the extras with their cheap, just slide-on masks.
Yeah.
Escape, there's only three apes, isn't there? So their makeup's pretty good. Conquest is strange. They have a very strange waxy look to their makeup, and some of them almost look half human. Well, none of them really look like. I mean, the thing is, in the Planet of the Apes films, you can look at the apes and go, well, yeah, they're not like chimps, are they? Real chimps. But you think to yourself, well, yeah, but it's thousands of years of evolution, and they will have changed and developed a bit more. But then Conquest comes along, and they look nothing like real apes as they would do. But you just sort of bypass that. But having said that, Conquest is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the one that's stood the test of time, and especially the new, I say new version, the original version, before they cut it and changed the ending. That's now on Blu-ray, where it has been for a while, with all the gore effects, and that's a stunning film. I think that's absolutely wonderful. But yeah, I love the makeup. I love that. I just love the practical thing. I love the fact, you could visit these sets. I had a friend who he lived in, California. He lived in LA in the 70s. He was a kid, and after they'd finished the series, for a few years, Ape City was still there.
No way.
Him and his friends went playing there. Can you imagine?
Unbelievable.
I went to the location. It must have been about 15 years ago, where the lake was. And then there's the lawgiver statue sort of in the middle of the lake. There's that walkway, and then the cities around it. I mean, there's no lake anymore. There's nothing. It's all overgrown. But you look around and you can see like the concrete bases where they built things. And you can actually, I used to have one, but I gave it to a friend. I found, you can find bits of Ape City lying around.
Wow.
And when I say bits, you can find, bits of plaster, but it's Ape City because that's where they built it. And you'll get sort of metal mesh. On one side there's plaster, and on the other side there's concrete. So what I did was I found a thick frame, and I put it in, and I had a photo before and after, like when it was Ape City, a picture, and then what it looks like now. Yeah. And then I just did a little plaque underneath. But I don't know. I mean, I just love the practical thing. I love the music as well. I mean, it just, again, it created such a world, and no one had really created worlds like that. I mean, Harryhausen did all the Sinbad movies, but each one started afresh, didn't they? They were like separate movies with different actors. But the Apes, beyond James Bond or the Carry-Ons or whatever, something that created a universe in the sci-fi fantasy world.
I can't think of anything either, really.
And I think that's it. And I think it was, and people, I don't know, do they forget that it was the first? It's like now we have Marvel universes, DC universes, all this. But the Apes were it was the first to have that mass marketing blitz. Before Star Wars, all the toys that came out, but they mainly came out during the series. When the series came out, you didn't get as much stuff over here in the UK as you did in the US. But anyhow, long and convoluted answer, but yeah.
This is what we're here for, because I think we're kindred spirits in a lot of ways from our conversations before the interview and so on so far. But are you the kind of Apes fan who will pick up anything that you see because I think the unique thing with Apes is sometimes you can just put Planet of the Apes into eBay and you will see something that you've never seen before
Yeah.
with Planet of the Apes on it. And I have been down that rabbit hole many, many times.
I love those toys from that classic period, you know, from the mass merchandising period. What was it, like 74, 75? And you've got Dr. Zaius with a machine gun, you know, and a parachute, or on a motorbike or something. It's classic. I mean, when I first started on eBay, I used to buy a lot because it was cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now they go for a lot, but I still, you know, I mean, like the trading cards.
Oh, nice.
In the original pack. I've got. I used to have a mask made by Ape Mania in North Hollywood, and I'm getting a new one done. And they use. Oh, they look like the real thing. You can make. They sell appliances too, but they're a little bit too pricey for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about $1.5 grand or something.
Wow.
But you actually have the appliance that you glue on. They have a mask appliance, which is that a little bit cheaper, but that's, you know, it's a mask, but it's an appliance on the front that you sort of glue on. And to have those made, you have to do a plaster cast of your face, and then you send that to them, and then they do the whole thing. But the masks are a lot better, and I'll be wearing a mask on the, you know, the movie screening, and I'll be doing magic as an ape magician. Because I had a mask, and I had the full conquest gear, you know, the red
jumpsuit, yeah.
Jumpsuit, yeah. Because that was a cheaper way of doing it. What's interesting is a lot of the apes, original apes suits, artifacts from the films, are actually coming down in price.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if that's the collectors of that who are really into that era are just getting older and not purchasing as much stuff. But I was really surprised you can get original apes, you know, sometimes, you know, background characters, but just hundreds of dollars as opposed to thousands.
No, don't tempt me, Miles. Don't tempt me.
And every now and again I have to, you know, clear it out, sell a few things, but then I just start collecting again. You know,
right.
I used to have all the Apes films, and then I got rid of them on Super 8, and then I thought, oh, I want them all back again, and that's the nature. But buying stuff, I like looking on eBay. I like. I used to buy anything, but now I'm a bit more, you know, a bit more selective. So I like the. What have I got? Oh, hold on. They fell off the shelf when we had they fell off the shelf when we had an earthquake a while back. But I love the you know, these. I don't know if that's going to go.
Yeah, I can see them.
Yeah, I love the fact they're so badly painted as well. That's old school, you know. But I used to have a really nice set of these in a box, a nice little display. Again, I sold those. I was getting rid of. I just thought I don't need them anymore, and then I started buying them.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'd love to. I'll tell you one thing I would love to get. I would love, and I keep looking, but I'd love to get all my old Planet of the Apes fan club stuff, like the button, and there was a poster with a calendar,
right,
and they would, I think they would photocopy. I don't even think they were called photocopies in those days, but they would make copies of the autographs of the astronauts and Gaylor, you know, Roddy McDowell, and send that out to the people, you know, in the fan club. I don't know what the fan club, it went for a long time. Fan clubs, again, that was because there was no internet.
Yeah.
So to connect with other fans, to feel like you were part of this world, you know, you join something, usually advertise. Everything was advertised. The thing that where you heard about anything apes related was in the comic.
Yeah.
So the Planet of the Apes comic wasn't so much a comic as it was equally it was a fan club newsletter in itself. So on the back, the comic, if you wanted to buy Apes belt buckles or join the Planet of the Apes fan club, that's where you found everything out. And then the letters fans would write in. Different world now.
I think one of my most prized possessions, or some of them at least, are I went a bit down the rabbit hole of, you know, the arena show that we talked about briefly. I've got some of those posters.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'll send you some pictures after we get off this.
You see, I just saw the ads in Marvel, in the Marvel Planet of the Apes comic, and I just
Yeah.
used to think, what? Wow, I can see an ape.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys, they made their own makeup, didn't they? I was reading about it.
Oh, wow.
They had nothing. They weren't sent anything from 20th Century Fox. They just said, we're doing a Planet of the Apes fan club. It's so popular. And then they got the license from Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just made their makeup themselves. And that's why the costumes are sort of almost like the real thing from a distance.
Yeah.
If if you're 7 years of age or 10 or whatever.
Well, one of the rabbit holes, and this will kind of lead into part of the reason why we're here. One of the rabbit holes that I've almost been down when I've been looking on eBay is the Planet of the Apes Super 8 films. And I've bought a couple in the past, never had anything to play them on. But then I've been like, Tom, listen, you don't need anything else to get into. Just sell them on, just stay away. And to this day, I've never been down that hole. But could you give us a bit of background on how you got into that and where that has now taken you?
Oh yeah, that was probably a year or so after the series. I mean, they were constantly advertised in the Planet of the Apes Marvel comic. The films, these were 200 foot, which is 8 minutes. In the world of Super 8, which is Super 8 film gauge. This is a strip of Super 8 film. I don't know if that's in focus. So it's 8 millimeters wide.
Yeah.
And then the other film gauge is 16, which is semi-professional. And then you've got 35, which is double that, which is most professional films. And that's what people used to watch in the cinemas. Then there's 70mm for your Lawrence of Arabia's and your epics. But 200 foot was pre-VHS. Its heyday was late 60s, probably mostly 70 to late 70s. And that was a way that if whatever, all your favorite films, if you wanted to watch anything at home, there was no VHS. So you'd watch these films. And the reason they were 200 foot, which is 200 foot is roughly about 8 minutes.
Okay.
You could get 400 foot, which was 16. You could even get feature films, but feature films were super expensive.
Right.
Even then, they were hundreds of pounds, which was, no one could afford that, apart from high-end collectors. So 200 foot, I can't, probably like £10 or something, £8, 5. So they were very affordable. What they were cut downs. How do you cut down Planet of the Apes into 8 minutes? Well, it's possible.
Wow.
And there's a joy in watching that. And really, you got to remember, you weren't when you bought these films, you just wanted to see highlights. It was memories. It was like memories of a trip, a family vacation.
Yeah.
And as a culture, people were already accustomed to that, because when you went on holiday, you usually shot 50-foot spools on your Super 8 projector, so you'd shoot your holiday, your vacation. Even though you're on vacation a week, you come home and you're watching it cut down to, what was it, like 2 minutes or something, 3 minutes. So we're used to that. Yeah. We were used to the short, edited versions of things. And so when so it was very affordable, and it was how people watched any films. Like on Super 8, you could get every film, MASH, Butch Cassidy, Patton, old science fiction, Hammer horrors. Everything was available on 200 foot, sometimes 400, but the Planet of the Apes films were available only on 200 foot. And I remember seeing them advertised. And a few years, I kept hounding my mum and dad, for Christmas, can I get a Super 8 projector? Can I? And one Christmas, I got one, and it was silent. Sound projectors were expensive, you see. We couldn't afford that. So I decided, so there were different versions as well. Not only were there 200 foot, you could get 200 foot black and white silent was the cheapest. Color silent was more expensive. I don't know if they did black and white sound. I think they just did color sound.
Right.
So when I was a kid, I had black and white silent. The first one I had was Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, black and white silent. I loved it. And amazingly, they did make they made sense.
Yeah.
Because in the 8-minute version of Conquest, I don't think Armando is there at all.
Okay.
So it basically starts off with the opening titles: the apes are walking up the steps of the Fox of the city,
Mm-hmm.
and then it cuts to, if I remember, it's basically the story of Caesar arriving, and then they realize he's intelligent, and then he gets electrocuted, and then he escapes, and then the uprise. And then there's a few battle scenes, and then it's the end of the film.
Right.
Planet of the Apes was I got that a little bit after, and again, it's wonderfully edited. You start off with the opening titles, so they're in the spaceship. Then they cut to I don't know if you see the spaceship crashing. I think you might see it crashing, and then you cut to the astronauts, and they're already by the field of corn, and the humans
Okay.
work, and they're saying, well, if this is humanity, we're going to be gods here, ruling this place. Then the apes arrive.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see them. They're Charlton Heston's shot, and then he's in the hospital, and then he escapes, and then he escapes with the aid of Cornelius and Zira, and then he's on horseback with Nova,
Mm-hmm.
and then he sees the Statue of Liberty. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
It tells a story, and there's a lot of fun to be had from just like, how are they going to edit this? And that's why they were there, so people could just remember these films, and that was it. That's all you had in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when VHS first started appearing, I remember just thinking, oh my God, you can own an entire film yourself and watch it at home?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? But yeah, Super 8, and there's magic to it. There's magic because it's a film going through a machine that's projecting onto a screen.
And I think as well, the fragility of it, that the more you use it, the more it's going to degrade, I guess, and
they don't last. I mean, I've got through several copies of the Apes films.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on Super 8, it's all down to you've got to take care of your film by keeping it in a cool, dark environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of tough at times living in LA, global war, it just keeps getting hotter and hotter. But at the same time, I've had films that I've forgotten about. I forgot a few films that I'd left in the garage in LA for 10 years. And I thought, oh shit, they're completely faded, because they will fade and warp over time. But it depends on the film stock.
Right.
And most of the British films on Super 8 were they used better film stock. The American ones than Planet of the Apes were the American. They mass produced them on the cheapest, like Eastman color film stock. So most of them go pink. I had a few that were really good color, but then 10 years later, they're pinkish. Yeah. So it's really difficult finding. They go for high prices when the color's really good, and that's usually when they're from the UK. Even then, the color's not perfect. So the ones that I've got now are probably the best you can get.
Okay.
They're brownish, but they have color in. There's still blues. Oh, look, there's blue. No, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. And we're showing them all in one go, and I don't think anyone's ever done that before. I mean, they're and when people think, oh, how do they tell a story? Just think about trailers that can be anywhere from 30 seconds to like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah,
can tell a long story, and 8 minutes doesn't seem a long time, but it is a long time. I mean, it's like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, Bugs Bunny. They're about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it's enough time to tell a story. You're not going to get real character involvement, but it's fun. It's fun. But yeah, they do turn pink.
So tell us about the Super 8 cinema then. What's the story with that?
Well, I always wanted to, I mean, my involvement over here, I directed commercials and music videos. And so I always had a passion for films, and I always wanted to be deep down inside. I wanted to be a cinema manager. I wanted to run my own cinema, and festivals were a sort of way of doing that. But that was the festivals I do. One, because I love putting on events. I used to put on bands when I was living in the UK, but putting on a festival, that's down to how I got over here, my career over here. And that was because when I was at college, I entered a competition, MTV competition. due to the guy who was running the department at the time, Phil Davies, who's now the co-creator of Peppa Pig. Dear, wonderful guy.
Yeah.
But I came over to a film festival because I entered the competition, and it was a worldwide competition. There were 10 finalists for this. You remember the old MTV logos?
Oh, yeah.
Nude animate. So it was a competition for those. There were 10 finalists from around the world. There were 3 from the UK, and it was me and my 2 friends from the same college. So the money that, even as a finalist, we must have won, I don't know, like 5,000 or something mad. But it was enough to save half for college, for the final year at college, and half of it paid for our flight over to the US. We stayed in a little hotel which was a block away from the theater. We got chaperoned by the festival organizers. We went to Disneyland with the greatest animators in the world because it was an animation festival. And it started my career because I was chaperoned. I met people. We were on MTV. We were kids. We were like 20 or whatever, 21, 22. And we were just having a laugh and getting drunk. And then we go back to England. A year, 6 or 7 months go by, finish my course. The last day at college, I didn't know what the hell to do. We were in Phil's office and the phone rang, and basically it was someone I'd met in LA who I'd been introduced to. And he said, "Do you want to direct a music video for the Pogues?" And I was like, "Sure." I didn't even really know who the Pogues were at the time, to be honest. But anyhow, it was because of that I wanted to do festivals and do the same thing, help people over here. And so the festivals are kind of small. We have audiences. We've had 1,000-seat cinemas, but we stick with like 150 seats, and we keep it nice and intimate. And we have industry people from LA, and we try and introduce people to the people in the business. And we do that with the Horror Fest as well. We had John Landis and all that. So that the reason I do the festivals is because of that. I try and recreate that. But so I digress a bit. So I still had this urge to do a traditional cinema. And the venue that we use for the festivals is fantastic. There's 2 theaters. They both got old school cinema seats. None of the reclining nonsense and sofas. It's old school with a little cup holder and red padded seating. And there's 100 and so in the big screen, and downstairs that's where we have the Soho Cinema Club. It's like 40 seats, 16 wide screen. And I just thought, you know what, let's try it. So I took my projector down, I tried it on the screen, and it looked fantastic.
Wow.
And we hooked it up to the sound system, and it was like, this is insane. And I since eBay began, what was that, like 94, something like that, I've been collecting Super 8 films. I've been collecting all the old opens from the Odeon and the ABC, welcome to the Odeon, welcome to the ABC. I have trailers, I have shorts, I have about 100 feature films, I have, like the 200 foots, the 400 foots. And I just thought, now's the time to do it. So I get dressed up. We did our first one 2 weeks ago, which was a horror-thon, and we screened Helter Skelter, a bunch of shorts, a whole mix of things, and sold out. And we do magic, and I also try and recreate. It's not just a cinema. I'm trying to create the old school thing, even like the ABC Miners, the old Saturday morning cinema thing.
Yeah.
So we have in the intermission, we have a raffle in the intermission. We do, I do a lot of magic and mentalism. I do some weird little card tricks and some illusions. We have a lot of merch. We have everything from, T-shirts. We do buttons. We have special guests, people from the industry. And I just try and create make it a real fun experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, so going through the screenings, I always wanted to do the Planet of the Apes, but I needed all of them. And finally, I got all of them, all the Apes films together. Someone was selling them all, but I had a few, so I replaced some of the ones that weren't so good.
Yeah.
And these are these are all the Apes films.
Beautiful.
So these are the covers. And Yeah, we'll be screening. And I love telling people, watch all the Planet of the Apes films, all 5 in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who wants to waste the time watching the whole movie?
How cool. This is like just your own playground, isn't it? To just do all the stuff you want to do.
You get it, don't you? This is it. It's
Yeah.
absolutely my own playground. And the Apes thing, it's absolutely my plaything. It's I don't know, is it an art project or whatever? Yeah, I guess so. You know, it's everything's artistic expression. What you do is it's all I think it's all stuff we enjoy and we get pleasure out of. I get pleasure out of finding like-minded souls who turn up to these things and they become friends for life.
Yeah.
You know, and so what else do you do with your life? Do you just sit and watch TV on your own or do you share? And it's best to share your passion, isn't it?
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah.
You know, some of my best friends, all my friends are either from not just the work, but just the, you know, the volunteers, and it becomes family. It really becomes family. So, but yeah, so this, you know, this is in LA. I know this is worldwide, you know, the podcast. So if anyone wants to come, it's a 40-seat. We do sell out pretty quick. And you just go to sohocinemaclub.com and look for the Apes screening, and there's links there for the tickets. But yeah, I'm going to be dressed up as a gorilla with an authentic Planet of the Apes mask, which is costing me nearly $500. So I'm kind of mad because it's $500 for basically this one screening. I'll probably wear it at other events, and then if I can sell it and then I can buy it. You know, that's what I mean.
It's the way it
you
always
buy
goes.
these things,
Yeah.
sell it, and then buy it again. But yeah, it's. I mean, this mask, that Ape Mania. I'll give them a plug. Anyone who's really interested in apes, if you want to become an ape, you want to have an appliance or a really good mask. They do different prices. You can buy the masks as cheap as $190. I think it's better for the. Probably shipping's expensive, but they also sell original props, clothes. You can buy a lawgiver statue for your back garden.
That's the dream.
Yeah, they're full size Caesar statues.
Yeah.
And didn't Sammy Davis have the original lawgiver statue in his backyard?
There is some crazy thing like that. It wouldn't surprise me if it was him, because there is some crazy lore around that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was a massive Hammer fan as well, Sammy Davis. But Ape Mania is the place if you want to look as close as possible to an ape and just wander around and have a laugh.
So what date is this one?
Oh, this is Friday, August the 30th. 7:15 p.m. is when it starts. Doors open at 7. It's in Los Angeles. If I give out the address, it would mean nothing to people in LA. Because it's around the corner from another street, but it's in Los Angeles. You just go to sohocinemaclub.com. Just look it up, and it's Friday, August the 30th, 7:15. There's only 40 seats, so if you're thinking, shall I go? Do come, because it's a lot of fun now, and there'll be magic and apes-related fun non-stop, and we'll try and get some special guests. It is LA, and there are still lots of ape actors and people in LA, and it's just a nice little place to be.
It sounds amazing. I honestly wish I could go. I really do. It's like torture.
We'll be doing it again probably in a year or 2 years if we're still going.
Yeah. But it's been so great to talk to you, and I know that I feel like I've found a kindred spirit. And I would love to have you back in the future. You know, maybe we'll pick a topic or a movie or something that we can.
Yeah, I'd love to.
You know, I don't think I need to wish you luck with the screening, because I think you'll, like you say, these sell out fast, and I think people will be well up for this. But I really want to thank you for joining me and speaking about it. And like I say, let's talk about something again in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always here. Complete film nerd, Planet of the Apes nut. Thanks. It's been a pleasure.
We still wait, my children. But as I look at apes and humans, living in friendship, harmony, and at peace, Now, some 600 years after Caesar's death, at least we wait with hope for the future.